you to all the educators who came out to the 4th annual NOLA Teacher Fest at Champion Square. We had over 2,000 attendees. Special thank you to our sponsors, Allstate Sugar Bowl, Entergy New Orleans, Raising Cane's, Align Ed New Orleans, Agenda for Children, and Oshner Children's for their commitment and support. Teachers and school leaders, enjoy the summer break.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
All right. Good morning, New Orleans.
So it's Friday. We get ready to roll on into the weekend, but we still have things to talk about. So Will took it upon himself to look at the early voting numbers for the millage that is going on the what is that, the sheriff's millage, right?
The Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office millage that was approved under Gusman 10 years ago. So now it's up for renewal.
So Nara, the folk didn't hear my good morning. Let's do our good morning again. Well, listen, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanti Sawai. Shout out to my super producer, Nara Sanders, and my co-pilot, D. Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, New Orleans.
So we had to tell y'all good morning all over again because my mic wasn't on. But what I will say is Will and I were talking directly before the show started, and we were talking about the early voting numbers for the millage that the sheriff is pushing. It's not a new tax.
No, it's not.
She's very
clear
about
despite
that.
The signs.
Yeah,
despite the signs, it is not. It's a renewal.
It's a renewal. And so the sheriff is saying that this money is needed to continue to do the work that is being done to reimagine what the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office can be. She has a key focus on, because it's like you said yesterday, it's not for guilty folk. It's pre-trial. So, so she wants it to be a place.
And the city is responsible.
Whoever's
in there.
Yeah, and so she needs the money to make certain that all of the programming that they're trying to do, the facilities and everything, just paying folk. I mean, that's another thing. Like I think a lot of the times we don't realize that a lot of the jobs that are being done in New Orleans are not being done where you have a living wage and you're able to have all of the things that you need to survive or whatever. So I know there are quite a few things she's hoping to be able to do with the renewal of this millage.
As are her opponents. Which is why they, too, are supporting passage of the renewal.
Oh, they're supporting it?
Yes. So each of them provided statements or came on air on your vacation and said, I support, but.
What's
of course,
the but? What's the but? Because when
because I can spend the money better than she can. I can do better with the money, but I need the money.
Oh.
But okay. I need the money.
Okay.
So it's like definitely vote yes.
Yeah.
Because when I get in there, I don't want to have up to 20% less of my budget to work with.
And while we're talking about these opponents, because qualifying has not yet happened, so we don't officially know who the opponents are. But I did
in any of the races.
But I did see, but there are some people who've made official statements
Absolutely.
About running. But
that's right.
But we have not had qualifying just yet. So I did see, what's it, Shorty? Is that his name?
Constable Edwin Shorty, he has announced and been campaigning.
Yeah, he's announced, and that's the only one that I've actually seen an official announcement. I don't. Who else made an official
Forever
announcement?
Sheriff Michelle Woodfolk has announced and
Okay.
has been campaigning.
You called her
And-
our forever sheriff, or you mean
Well,
superintendent?
that was my
Oh,
little.
okay.
that was my
'Cause
little.
she was the
thing.
interim. She was the
I
interim
know.
superintendent
I
of New
know.
Orleans Police
But
Department.
yeah, I just think for a lot of us
Uh-huh.
that we were proud of her
I
for
got
getting
you.
there and
I-
disappointed that she
I like-
didn't, and so
I
that's
like
my that's
Michelle.
my
I
little
have-
Will Shelton thing.
I like Michelle.
So, yeah.
So Michelle Woodfork is definitely running for
Right, and
for
former
sheriff.
criminal court judge Julian Parker,
So this is my
who
first
I
time
did
hearing
not
that. I didn't hear that.
expect to get in the race.
Julian Parker.
And he's out there, and I have seen Hudson and Woodfolk signs popping
Mhm.
up. So they've been popping up. But listeners, you should realize that the millage is not the sheriff campaign. So you're actually not voting on Sheriff Hudson or not. You're voting for that millage
it's a resource,
to continue.
it's a resource like anything else. She's
Right.
pushing for it because
Right.
she needs it to improve
Right.
facilities and whatnot. But I want to be very 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 clear about what's happening here. So we have Julian Parker
Yep.
running for the New Orleans Parish Sheriff.
Yep.
We have the former interim superintendent of police,
Yep.
Michelle Woodfork,
Yep.
running for the sheriff's office, and we have Shorty, the
Constable Edwin
constable.
Short.
He's
Out of
running
Algiers.
out of Algiers, and then of course
The incumbent.
the current sheriff is also running to be reelected. So this election cycle is shaping up to be something.
Right. And early voting for the millage is over. That ended on April 6th. So tomorrow,
On
yes,
April-
Jazz Fest Saturday.
You mean April 26th?
I'm April 26th.
Okay.
I'm sorry. But tomorrow, May 3rd, yes, it is a Jazz Fest day. And yes, there are a number of other community activities and events. But tomorrow is the last day. It is election day and your opportunity to vote. So I looked up how we're doing
Okay.
in the early numbers. And out of 260,000 plus or so eligible voters, we got 3%.
3%. And so
That's less than 8,000 people.
in Jefferson Parish, we have a councilman, a council seat that's up in District 1, and that is between Timothy Kerner Jr., the Republican, and then Andrea Manuel, the Democrat.
Yep.
And then we also have a parish-wide proposition that's focused on our library, a consolidated drainage millage renewal, and then Jefferson Parish Rec and Community Center and Playground millage renewal as well. So we have 4 things that we're actually voting for in Jefferson Parish, but in New Orleans, you guys are only focused on this.
Unless you're in a neighborhood that has a ballot measure specific to that
To your
area, like
neighborhood.
Lakeview has.
So
something,
listen,
you know,
I
like-
mean, I know the early voting numbers are dismal, but you still have an opportunity to get out tomorrow and vote. And I'm imploring you to do so. Like we have to vote. That's just what we have to do. It doesn't bode well for us when we tap out of our democratic responsibility.
And we showed up March 29th
Yeah,
for those amendments,
yeah,
and they all went down.
Yeah.
And Orleans Parish was a big part of that, and Jefferson Parish, because in Jefferson Parish, all of them went down. So
Yeah.
those are 2 very different parishes.
but I think too.
and across the state. So people came out
Yeah,
to say no.
yeah.
And in this case, people should come out to say
Yeah.
yes.
There were a number of layered interests on that on the ballot during those
Absolutely.
proposed constitutional amendments. Because I can remember at one point there was a pastor who was supporting one of those amendments until he realized that your sanctuary is literally the only place that will be protected should this amendment pass. So all of like your community center or your
Right.
additional
Yeah.
buildings and things of that nature that
And a
that
reversal
they
on
won't-
supporting Amendment 2 because
Yeah.
the
and I think that was due in part to the messaging that the clergy community was receiving at first from our state leaders pushing this thing like it was a good thing for them. And it wasn't until our legislators started to get in the weeds of it and start to say, no, this is really what's going to happen. If you just, no different than how the governor was saying this would be a permanent pay raise for teachers. And then the folk got in there and say, no, this is really what's happening. You have to cut this, and this, and then you only get this, this minuscule amount of money, and it's not permanent. It's just this one-time payout of money. And so, again, I said on the air, I don't know a teacher worth her salt that will blow up the entire infrastructure for $2,000, or a paraprofessional that will blow up the entire infrastructure for $1,000.
Right.
We spend that just taking care of our classroom and our children out of our own pocket, in one semester. So I didn't think anybody would do that if they had the right information.
Right.
So for me, that is what elections are all about. It's about educating the people in the most concise way so that the water doesn't feel so muddy, right? Because you have all of these conversations happening. You have the governor saying this, and you have the legislators saying that. Then you somewhere like, okay, well, who do I believe?
Right.
But that's why the campaign No to All Four was so effective, because it was concise, it was easy to remember, and it was just something that everybody can just say. So you had everybody mimicking it. You know what I mean? And so look, I'm hoping that folk get up and get out and vote. And the weird thing is, for that election where we did so well, we weren't competing against anything. There's Jazz Fest this weekend, right? We weren't competing against a fest. We weren't competing against a Saints game or a Bayou Classic or a second line or anything. It was just an open time to go vote. But now we have folk. We have Jazz Fest. This is Jazz Fest weekend.
And May off-cycle elections are traditionally low voter turnouts.
Yeah.
But this money is critical.
Yeah.
I mean, Sheriff Hudson beat Sheriff Marlon Gusman.
Yeah.
Gusman had the money. Sheriff Hudson needs the money. Hudson or whoever is the next sheriff needs the money.
I've also been hearing...
If this goes down, the city will still be responsible. So let me give you a little preview. If this goes down, in the fall, city council will have to fund, with additional money, have to fund the sheriff's office. And what will that mean? Other things that are being funded, especially throughout our communities, will have to go away.
Well, I've also been hearing murmurs about the former sheriff also taking interest in possibly running again. I've been hearing those things, but nothing official yet.
Nothing yet.
So
I talked to him a few weeks ago, and he says, yes, I am considering it, and I will take my time to decide. But he and any other person interested has until July to file, because that's when it closes. But that certainly would add a wrinkle.
That's deeper than a wrinkle. There's also a case that is happening on the river that I think a lot of folk ought to be focusing on. There's a young guy, a black guy. He works on the river, and somehow, some way, he disappeared. And there wasn't really much talk about it until his family started pushing through social media to get eyes on it. And I did see Channel 6 covered it. But there's still like no answers. All they're saying is he's a chronic worker. He's on time. He doesn't miss work. And then there was some sort of drill or something, or some sort of like roll call for their responsibilities to do their part in this line that they're supposed to do. And when it came to his part, he didn't answer to the call. He didn't respond. But all of his personal belongings are still inside of the room where he resides while he's on the water. Nothing is missing except for him. And it seems no one has any definitive answers as to where this man is. Now, because folk know that I'm on the radio and they know I talk news, they've been dropping things in my inbox. And I received a voice note. This person didn't text it. They spoke the words to me.
Okay.
And they, several people, as a matter of fact. But the one thing that connected all of the stories is that the facility or whoever he works for seems to not want to provide any definitive answers as to what happened to this man. One of the voice notes that I receive is alluding to some sort of physical altercation that took place between this gentleman and someone else that works on the water as well. And apparently there was a physical altercation. This guy was injured and then placed into the water, is what the person is saying in my inbox.
Certainly the company wouldn't support that.
Well, also too, Will, you and I think we were on the air when supposedly a barge or something hit something in the water, remember?
Right.
So the person is saying that the day that everybody was talking about the barge hitting is the actual day that this incident happened, but nobody said anything about it. And it wasn't until the family could not reach him that they started to wonder what was going on. And there's no trace of this man. All of his belongings are there, but he's not there. And he's been doing this job on the water for a number of years, so he's skilled. He understands the dangers of the water. And they're saying when it came time to call his name, because it sounds like they have like some sort of line of work where one person does one thing and the next person picks it up. So wherever he is in the link, when it was time to call his name, he did not respond. And that is when, that's their story now, that is when they started to, I guess, look for him. But the family is saying they had been asking questions and nobody would give them answers. And now people are speculating that there was some sort of physical altercation and he was hurt and placed into the water.
Has this become an official police investigation?
I would assume so, because Channel 6 covered it and they were saying like all of the questions and unanswered questions that the family had, they were talking about it and covering it with that same energy. And so that would only be the next step that makes sense.
Yeah.
If he showed up to work, he was at work, his belongings are in the place, but he is not, then where is the man? Like, people don't just, it's not osmosis or anything like that. They don't just go away without a trace, and you can't, follow their movements or who was the last person he spoke to, or their cameras on the barge. Like, what can we do to piece this thing together? Because he did not just disappear.
Yeah, I see. That was Shay O'Connor's report.
Yes.
And it's a 42-year-old Darius Clement, last seen at work on a barge.
Yes.
And there is an investigation, and Veronica Clement, the aunt, his aunt, is saying he's a family guy. He loves us. Anytime someone is in trouble or needs help, you can go to Darius.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, the family needs answers. It has to make sense. And I tell people all the time, when things don't make sense, somebody's not telling the truth, because it should make sense. You ought to be able to follow his movements. You ought to be able to have a record of the last time he checked into work or showed up to the line that he was supposed to be on, but he's nowhere to be found on a barge. So
it's limited property.
Let's talk about it, right? We have to go to break, but when we come back, we'll jump into more conversations, talking about our local, state, and national news right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
All day long, y'all.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat. Operation Hope founder and CEO John Hope Bryant has dedicated his career to empowering people from underserved communities. And he's worried about how the Trump administration's trade policies could impact those very communities.
When you say tariffs to my population, they're thinking about bread prices, egg prices, kitchen top economics, gas prices, how's it going to affect the restaurant, how's it going to affect the car they're buying, or the TV that they're buying, because a lot of this stuff has parts from all around the world, and they're smart enough at least to understand that if there's a tax on that the importer is going to have to potentially raise those prices.
Hope says the U.S. economy is powered by consumers, and his goal through Operation Hope is to make sure all Americans have the financial tools they need to thrive and power the economy. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Hey, WBOK, Ron Richardson here, host of a new show called Conversations with Ron Richardson. Join me every Saturday live from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. as we sit down and discuss mental health, disability, drug addiction, and everyday life issues. If you're ready to have a real conversation, let's get it started, New Orleans, every Saturday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here on WBOK and streaming worldwide on WBOK1230.com.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Turn your book idea into publishing gold.
800-215-6818. 800-215-6818. That's 800-215-6818.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands Free Skechers Slip-Ins.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as Slip-Ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers Slip-Ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, Slip-Ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers Slip-Ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed, stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Just a kid who grew up in New Orleans East. First attended public schools, then to St. Augustine High School. After college, Arthur Hunter became a police officer. And while community policing the housing projects, Arthur Hunter worked his way through Loyola Law School at night and became a respected judge who lectured at Harvard, Yale, and Columbia Law Schools. Now, Arthur Hunter is asking to be your next mayor, because the best way to get better police officers is from a mayor who's been a police officer. To bring life back to our playgrounds and neighborhoods is a mayor who played on them as a kid. And to have a government that's accountable is a mayor who's been a criminal court judge. Arthur Hunter. He's been called the best candidate for mayor you may not know yet, but you will. Arthur Hunter, mayor. Paid for by Arthur Hunter for New Orleans.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. My co-pilot this morning is D. Will Sutton. Hey,
Good
Will.
morning, good morning, good morning.
And
it's 7:26.
It is. Wake up. Y'all should be on the way to work or at work at this point. So hopefully you can make it through the traffic, because it is traffic at this time, and get to where you're going safely. But prior to the break, we were just in conversation about a number of things. We were talking about the case of the young man that's working on the river, and he's missing. We hope and pray that there is a positive outcome for him and his family, but it's just not looking good for him to be missing off of a barge. There's not many places he can be if he was on that barge. Where is he, right?
Yeah,
so
it's not like here missing in City Park.
Yeah.
Huge piece of property, and anywhere you could go in City Park, but also elsewhere in the city. You're on a freaking barge?
On a barge. And it's not like it's a ship, like a cruise ship, where you have stops. And maybe he got left at the dock, or, at this. But he's on a barge. And again, I remember hearing about the barge colliding with something recently, or however that was going. And so folk are speculating that something actually happened to him on the barge, and that the company he's working for, or was working for, is not being forthcoming with any sort of information. So we're hoping, for his family's sake, that because the media has now picked the story up and it has some traction, that there will be some outcomes. Because I even heard a recording of a gentleman. They've masked his voice. I don't know who the gentleman was talking to, but he's telling the story of what he believes happened on the barge. And so there are people talking, and just by the way they're talking, it tells me that they're afraid of being, named to face
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to be involved for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're working on the barge. Maybe they work for the company.
Yeah.
Not certain, but I respect my sources, so I don't really, want to ever air anything out that folk are trying to tell me in confidence. But
and that company is QSL.
Yes.
So if any of you all work there, used to work there, know people
you
who
should
work
be
there,
concerned, right?
You should be concerned
Because
and,
if this is
and
happening
you should
to
let
him,
us know.
Yeah,
let
your
us
loved
know
one could be at
what's
risk.
going on.
QSL has an obligation to this gentleman. He was an employee of theirs. He still is an employee of
foreman.
theirs. Yes, so you have to be able to give us something that makes sense. Where's the meat and potatoes of this issue? And right now we don't have it. All of his things are there, but he is not. And so we need to figure out, what's going on so that we could have a robust story, but a robust understanding rather of what is taking place. But for the sake of his family, we are hoping for a positive outcome. But here's another story we covered here some time ago. I probably was still guesting at that time, Will, when we covered this story, because it's been a minute.
Yeah.
But there was this woman in Jefferson Parish. Surveillance cameras caught her pulling what looked to be like a suitcase of some sort, pulling it down the street, and she dropped the suitcase off at a home. And we later found out that it was the home of the woman whose daughter was inside of the suitcase. So this woman, Banek Landon, was just convicted of first-degree murder by a jury on Thursday in the brutal killing of 6-year-old Bella Fontanelle, leaving her body in a bucket. Oh, it was a bucket on the child's mother's front lawn. So this woman was dating the little girl's father, and the father left the little girl in her care. For whatever reason, not only did she take the child's life, but then she wheeled the child to her mother's house and left the body on the front lawn. They said Landon faced trial for 4 days. The jury reached their verdict in less than an hour, so that didn't take long. She will be sentenced on May 6th, just in a few days, and will receive a mandatory life in prison sentence. So they already know the sentence, even though she hasn't been sentenced? I guess because Louisiana carries...
Yeah, I think that's based on what the particular charge is at the
so she'll just
the
formally
DA's
get
office.
her sentence on the 6th. But they said the defense began presenting witnesses, including a paramedic and psychiatrist. Following the state resting his case, the paramedic, who was called to the Harahan Police Department that night, described the moments and began evaluating Landon. So I guess they were, she was trying to have some sort of like mental health defense. The paramedic testified that Landon was described as acting strange. I mean, it's absolutely strange to kill a child and put her in a bucket and go drop off on her mama lawn.
Yeah. The DA who was prosecuting the case said this is a woman who is pissed off and evil.
Pissed off and evil about what, though?
Well, here's the thing. I have to say, in my lifetime, a number 2 or 3 times, I've been pissed off and evil.
Just 2 or 3?
And
a couple zeros for me.
I've been pissed off and evil.
Here and there?
And evil. But not to the point where I'm going to kill somebody.
Let alone a 6-year-old baby.
That I definitely wouldn't kill a child. And then this is a relationship that you have that I guess you wanted to maintain. How did you think this was going to enhance your relationship?
I don't know. And some of these people think if they get the child out of the way, they can have the man or woman all to themselves. But who do you know is going to continue to want to be in any sort of covenant with you and you take their baby from them? So we were talking off air. I think this is a symptom of a much larger story too, where you think about folk just leaving their children with folk they barely know. Like you keep entrusting your most prized possession with a woman you just, you clearly don't know that well, because you're not going to tell me whatever her issues are, she was able to hide them from him to the level that he entrusted her with his baby. So, I mean, just something about that is weird. But she took the life of this young baby, and then she put her in a bucket, and she wheeled her over to her mom's house and left her there and just casually walked away as if it were nothing. But
so sad.
Yeah,
so
we
sad.
need. I mean, mental health is a real thing. but we also need to make certain that we're not allowing people to just do vicious things and hide behind the covering of mental health illnesses and because there are people out there who are really dealing with some real things, and we just need to be able to differentiate those things.
Yeah.
But in other news, like I guess more upbeat news, our boy Shador just got an endorsement deal from Delta Airlines.
How about that?
Yes. They ran a commercial. The commercial just recently aired. And he's
fifth rounders can do well.
They can, because he was never a fifth rounder. But it says in the short clip promoting the deal, Sanders is seen donning a Delta Airlines sweatshirt as he makes his way to his plane seat, and then saying, "It's time to keep climbing." Isn't that something?
I like that. I like that.
Shout out to Delta. So, yes, he has an endorsement deal with Delta Airlines. And on top of that, they are reporting that his jersey is the #1 selling rookie jersey thus far. And to add to that, the folk over on social media have decided to collude together and buy his jersey directly from his own website as opposed to NFL.com. So
now we're going to have reports on the Sanders jersey and the NFL jersey and see which one is them.
So while I do think that maybe the NFL receives some modicum of a percentage from his actual site because it's still the NFL product, they don't get as much, I would assume, as if they got it directly from the NFL website. Their cut is probably significantly less.
Yeah.
So
companies got to make money.
Shout out to the the social media community. They're like rallying around him, and I think it's a wonderful thing. But I saw you wrote something, right, about the Browns phone call with Shador. Is that yours? Is that your
that
article?
wasn't mine. That was not mine.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see that the general manager
Mm-hmm.
talked with him, and so this is a report about what happened on the day he was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep in mind, lots of people thought he would not only be in the first round, but early in the first round.
Yeah.
And round 1 went by, 2 went by, 3 went by, 4 went by. So his mentors team, Las Vegas Raiders, passed on him. The Cleveland Browns passed on him. The Saints passed on him, as did a number of other teams. So, of course, those who support and love Shador, and even if you don't love him but you respect his game, you're happy for him that he did get drafted and he's on the team, the Cleveland Browns. The GM call, in that call, he basically said to Shador, I know you, it took a while to get us to this place, but here we are, and you can work hard and show them that they were wrong.
Well, to add a layer to the Shador Sanders story, right? I ran across an article, but the New Orleans Saints draft pick Tyler Show seen shucking oysters at Drago's. And
the very same place that Drew Brees went when he was transferred to the team.
But most people who have listened to me long enough know that when I read articles and I'm taking in what is written, I always see what's not being said. And I have I just take issue with a lot of things when I feel like it's cloaked in passive aggression or some sort of nice nasty, right? So it says, and Drago's owner, Tommy, he has a name that I'm not going to butcher, but I think I know how to pronounce it, but I'm not quite sure. But Tommy is the owner's name. And it says he dined with the owner as well as his brother, Jefferson Parish coroner, Dr. Gary, and others ate with the young quarterback. This is the comment that was given by the owner, Tommy. He's smart and polite, but we were most impressed by how respectful and humble he is. So you're chuckling, so I feel like you're picking up what I'm putting down,
yes,
Will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you hear there?
Yep. So this is not an overconfident, confident young man. who knows his place at a seat in a prominent restaurant, like Drago's. That if somebody else were in the seat, that maybe they would not be. They're anticipating that they wouldn't be as impressed and respectful.
He's smart and polite, but we were most impressed by how respectful and humble he is. So my question then would be, is Shedeur Sanders not smart and polite? Is he not?
Seems to be, he is.
Is he not respectful? And what does humble mean?
Right.
What's the definition of humble? Do I have to grovel at your feet to get the label of humility put on me? Like, what does humble mean? Because if I'm a football player, nobody's coming on game day to see humble on the field. No. They want the theatrics. They want the sportsmanship. They want the gamesmanship. That's what make the game fun, is it not?
Right. If you have a winning season, your quarterback's doing incredible. Yeah. Your quarterback takes you to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And you win. Yeah. The quarterback is not going to say post game, "We were lucky."
Or he's not going to say, "I just want to be extremely respectful and humble in this moment."
Right.
You know, we're just grateful for that. No, they're going to pop their stuff because
Absolutely.
They can.
They earned it.
They should.
They earned it.
Like, that's the whole reason you have the whole defense now running to the end zone when they have an interception and they're all doing this collective dance and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's how primetime became primetime, because when he scored, he has the nice little dance after, and people ate that up. They loved it.
Yep.
But what I fear is this whole idea of now you're going to try to monitor his behavior, so to speak, to make certain that he's respectful and humble, and the idea that he was even drafted at all. Is that how he's supposed to show up to work? Like, how you going to take the flare out of a firecracker? You know what I mean? It's supposed to make noise.
Yep.
He's a Sanders, like, for God's sake. Like, why are we acting as if what he's doing doesn't have a place in football? He's not in a boardroom where you got to be all buttoned up, and he's an athlete.
Right.
I don't know about you, but when I go to basketball games or volleyball games, I want to see if I see the athlete make a because we call them kills in volleyball, right? A really nice kill. Nobody is respectful and humble in that moment. They're trying to put it on your head.
That's why they call it a kill. That's why they call it a kill.
And they're trying to celebrate when they do it.
Right.
So what are we really talking about here? So when I read that, I was like, yeah, okay. Y'all could let up, because, like, stop it. What we're most impressed by, it's not his game day film. It's not anything, football related. It's just how respectful and humble he is. Meek and docile.
Yeah.
Beware the day they change their mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's what I hear. Shedeur changed his. He don't want to be that. Like, why can't
Well, he wasn't raised to be that.
He wasn't. Why can't I just be in my fullness?
Yeah.
But every interview I've ever, seen of the young man, yes, he's confident, but he's always respectful, and he leads everything with God. So what? Y'all don't like Jesus no more? Y'all don't like God no more? Right. I don't know, Cedric. Good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. Happy Friday to the both of you and to the WBOK family. We all know that the conversation, really, the quiet conversation, is we're going to shut this young man down because of his father, because of what his father did, because of who his father was, and because his father knows the business. We know the play. I am grateful and happy for him. And what the saying is, delayed but not denied, because of their spirituality. Now, Doc, I just heard you, talk about the meeting, the people meeting this quarterback from here. One of the first things Mr. Sanders did when he got to Cleveland was go to an inner city high school. Now, how grand is that? How humble is that?
Yeah.
So I'm waiting here in the city of New Orleans for our young Shedeur Sanders to rise and for us to support them. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you, Cedric. Have a blessed one. What do you think there? Well, what did you take from the comment? Did you feel like it was more a slight at this whole idea of Shador not being humble enough, or do you think it was a genuine compliment?
I think it was a genuine compliment of this particular young man in the context of what's happened in recent days.
Absolutely.
Which was definitely.
Absolutely.
Sanders was the news.
Absolutely.
And he was not.
So that feels more like a backhanded compliment to me, because you don't have to even censor Shador in your censoring this young man. They're separate and apart. But everybody wants to pile on, and they try to do it in a way that they think we don't notice it. But I don't see anything disrespectful about this young man, and I don't see anything and I don't see any reason why he has to be humble in your sense of the definition of humble. What does that mean to you to be humble? Yeah. Was I not like begging and pleading for you to let me in the door? Is that the level of humble I should have been? But what I do love about Cameron Ward, the young man that was drafted number 1, every time the conversation comes up, he speaks very highly of Shador Sanders. Because what folk don't realize is more often than not, these young men are already friends. They're already bonded in a way because they play the same game. They're going through the same process. They're sharing the same experience, and they have a mutual respect for each other. And I'm just hoping that his camp never allows them to draw a definitive line between those two and try to put them at odds with each other. Because they always talk about Cam in this light of, this is how you want your athlete to be. This is, what how you want them to present, and then they juxtapose it against Shador, in his interviews. And so we just need to be mindful of that. But listen, I'm excited because we get to have conversations with our counsel coming up on the other side of the break. I'm excited. You excited?
I am excited. I'm excited.
We get to really, really talk about it.
And we got the Jefferson Parish Democratic candidate. And
Andrea
let me just say, Mr. Kerner was asked multiple times, the Republican candidate to come on WBOK and talk to you. Mm-hmm. And the last communication was last night, where he specifically asked what time, and then silence.
Well, that's just the caveat that we have to share with you, because Andrea Emanuel is here, and we're going to jump into conversation with her. And here's the thing: if Mr. Kerner decides that his time frame fits our time frame and he wants to have a conversation, we can. But when you gonna do it? Election day is tomorrow.
Right.
So, we did reach out. We did try to line it up.
On another day.
Could have been on another day, and it could have been 2 days if his schedule allowed him to. But it did not happen. But we do have Andrea Emanuel here, and we're going to jump into conversation about why she feels she's the best candidate to represent District 1 for the Jefferson Parish Council. Y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
The legendary Broadway show is back. The Wiz. The Chicago Tribune raves it's an eye-popping, high-intensity revival and a cause for celebration. The music, the voices, the legend returns. Entertainment Weekly says, run, don't ease on down to this spectacular revival. The Wiz. Playing the Sanger Theater May 13th through 18th. Tickets at BroadwayInNewOrleans.com.
Fresh produce, local flavor, and a healthy you. New Orleans East Hospital is hosting a farmers market the last Wednesday of every month from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Join us in the parking lot across from the main entrance. Support local farmers and your wellness. We'll see you there.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Happy Friday, everybody. Shout out to my co-pilot, The Will. Son Will, it's about to get interesting around here.
Oh, yeah. It's 7:50 a.m.,
Yeah.
folks. And the talk line is 504-582-9422. Again, 504-582-9422. But what an 8 o'clock hour coming up.
Yeah, we it's about to get real interesting around here. We have the prospective councilwoman for District 1. She's running for District 1 out of Jefferson Parish.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea Emanuel, she's running against Tim Kerner Jr.
John Lafitte, mayor.
Yeah, who we also extended an invite to.
Multiple times.
We just could not get him on air, but we want to make that very, very clear that everybody had an equal opportunity to show up. But Andrea is here, and we're excited to talk to her. And then we're going to jump into conversations with our councilman,
Council President.
Council President J.P. Morrell. That's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about that trash contract. We need some more clarity around it. I want to answer. I want him to answer the questions that are being asked. And we just need to get to the heart of the issue. What's the issue? Because one of the questions I have in my brain is if the guy that was initially awarded the contract, Mr. Henry and Henry Consulting, if he has not worked out whatever hiccup he had going on
with Richards,
then what now is the issue? Because I thought that's why we bought in the emergency contract, because those two were not coming to an agreement.
Yeah, and based on the hearing at City Council, Council President Morrell made a point of saying that was not the only issue.
Okay.
So there are other issues.
Okay.
Perhaps he'll talk about what the other issues were, because certainly that's where I was focused on. Well, if those two business people worked it out, what's the issue? So Council President Morrell is saying there were other issues, and there still are issues.
Okay.
With how this is being handled.
So we'll get the answers that we are in search of. At the top of the 8 o'clock hour, we'll hear from Andrea Emanuel. She is running for the Jefferson Parish Council in District 1. She's number 5 on the ballot. It says vote for leadership that understands your daily challenges. That's quite the statement, right? We have one day until election. The numbers are not looking the way we want them to look in terms of early voting, but you still can show up to the polls tomorrow and let your voice be heard. So please take advantage of every opportunity where you can use your the power of your vote to create the change in your community that you want to see. And I'm on her site, and she has just about everybody on here. I see Cornel West. I see Helena Moreno. I see Troy Carter. I see Mitch Landrieu, Royce Duplessis. I don't know. Unless Ms. Manuel is 10 different people, she's everywhere with everybody, huh?
Yeah.
I see
Might
it.
be out of Council District Number 1 in Jefferson Parish, but there are a whole bunch of people in that district, in Jefferson Parish, in Orleans Parish, and elsewhere outside of Louisiana.
But let's talk about how historic this could be.
It really
The
would
history
be
behind having two African American folk on the council at the same time. One being a black woman. I don't know that maybe I need to ask question. I don't know that because I've been living in Jefferson now for a number of years, and I don't know that I've seen in my residency a black woman sit on the council.
No.
And so we talking history making?
History 2 times, because
history 2 times?
Council District 1 has never had a black person or a black woman on council representing that district. Byron Lee is a black man representing his district, but there's been one. So there'd be history to have Council District 1 represented by a black woman. And it'd be history to have 2 black council members on the Jefferson Parish Council.
Well, we're going to get into that, and we're going to talk about it. And here's the thing. We all know that there's a saying about representation matters. And I always tell folk we have to finish the statement because it does matter. But it only matters when they're representing the interests of the people who require the representation. Right? Because it's not just enough to have a black council person. We have to have a black council person that understands the issues of black folk living in Jefferson Parish and people working to make certain that there's equitable outcomes for black folk in Jefferson Parish. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, so that's coming up at the 8 o'clock hour, and then
hour.
the city council president after that on the controversial trash contract. But right now, I'm going to give you, Dr. Wyatt, an update.
What's the update?
First of all, I want to remind you how special yesterday was.
It was.
That was amazing. It was such a joy to see this sister's face. I could almost see the skin bumps, kind of moving. I mean, she was so excited to have Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
Yes.
And I know a lot of you feel the same way.
Yeah.
So it was great that that confirmation was right here on WBOK yesterday. And the organizers, national and local, are going to be telling you more about the State of the People Power Tour, which will be in New Orleans on May 8th and May 9th. So look at your calendars because there's going to be stuff going on during the day and at night. So I do know that Jasmine Crockett will be on here, on Friday.
Yes.
And during the evening rally.
Yes.
So that will be the Friday evening rally. But guess what else I heard?
What did you hear?
Angela Rye.
See, they trying to do it to me because all you got to do is throw Joy Reid and Nina Turner in there, and I'm done for. Right now, I'm done for.
Angela Rye.
I'm excited.
Angela Rye.
I'm excited.
Angela
I'm excited. I'm excited about all of this. And here's the thing. Like, I have never in my life fanned out over anybody. And see, I'm gonna get my super producer because he the one that made me respond that way.
Yeah.
Because he just handed me the paper and I'm just thinking, okay, it's Congressman Troy Carter Thursdays. I'm expecting to see Troy Carter's name.
Right.
And then I saw her name and I was like, wait, lost it.
Yep. And as much as these powerhouse women will be coming to New Orleans, let's not forget we got powerhouse sisters right here,
and we
who will be a part of this. Mm-hmm. And this is a 10-city tour. New Orleans is the next stop. And as much as we'd like to hear and see and get energized from the sisters and others, the purpose of this 10-city tour is to develop a black agenda.
And what is the name of the tour?
It is the State of the People Power Tour.
State of the
State
People
of the
Power
People
Tour.
Power Tour. So you can look that up.
And we're the only city with 2 dates.
Well, they were going to do one day in North Carolina, but
They added another?
so they did
Okay.
Durham and Raleigh. They're not
That's
quite
fine. I'm
twin
with it.
cities.
I'm with it.
Yep. So they
I'm
they end
with
up
it.
doing a piece of it
Yeah.
the next day. But in New Orleans, it's 2 full days.
Yeah.
And they're going to be doing community events, but they're going to be workshops, and there's going to be a rally. There's going to be speakers.
Exciting.
It's going to be ways to get engaged on different types of subjects, and all of that we'll know probably early next week.
And do we know anybody from New Orleans who's participating? We have to go to break, but is there any name that you know that's confirmed to participate?
I don't want to put them out there.
Oh, well, tell me on the break. Tell me on the break.
Because it's up to the organizers
Good.
to
I'm with
confirm.
it. I'm with it.
But
we know
people
But we know
people
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett will be there.
Absolutely.
That's enough for me.
Yep.
Well, we have to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to hear from Andrea Manuel. She's running to sit on the Jefferson Parish Council in District 1. We have her right here with us, y'all. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
All day long. WBOK New Orleans, home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Michelle Obama once again addressed speculation about marital strife with former President Barack Obama on the Diary of a CEO podcast with Black British entrepreneur Stephen Bartlett. She says everybody would know if there were issues.
If I were having problems with my husband, everybody would know about it. I'm not a martyr. I would be problem solving in public.
The former First Lady says they're committed to their 32-year marriage, dismissing the rumors. A new air traffic controller recruitment and retention program is being launched by Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. The FAA will give $5,000 bonuses to all Academy graduates and new hires that complete initial qualification training. And Warner Brothers seeks to dismiss Chris Brown's defamation lawsuit over allegations in the Chris Brown A History of Violence film. They submitted news articles detailing his past arrests and restraining orders. The judge has yet to rule. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
New Schools for New Orleans is committed to celebrating the hardworking teachers of New Orleans. Thank you to all the educators who came out to the 4th annual NOLA Teacher Fest at Champion Square. We had over 2,000 attendees. Special thank you to our sponsors, Allstate Sugar Bowl, Entergy New Orleans, Raising Cane's, Align Ed New Orleans, Agenda for Children, and Oshner Children's for their commitment and support. Teachers and school leaders, enjoy the summer break.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Happy Friday, everyone. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta White. My co-pilot this morning is D. Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning. New Orleans, it's 8:02.
Yeah, she's here with us, the candidate for Jefferson Parish Council District 1, Miss Andrea Emanuel. Good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. And we have a treat with us. a current city councilman. Everybody knows who this guy is. Everybody know you, don't they, Councilman? Huh? I don't have to introduce you. Your name. We have Byron Lee, y'all. Everybody know Byron Lee. Hey, Byron.
Hey. Happy to be here.
Welcome to the Good Morning Show. How you doing?
I am fine.
You look beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, for those of us who don't know much about you, our listening audience, people who want to know who Andrea Emanuel is, who are you, and why do you feel like you're the best person to represent Jefferson Parish Council District 1?
Well, good morning, listeners. I am a lifelong resident of Jefferson Parish. I grew up on the East Bank in Shrewsbury. Yes, I was educated in public schools in Jefferson Parish. I graduated from Riverdale High School, and I attended LSU in Baton Rouge. Then I graduated from Xavier University.
I was waiting to ring the bell.
That's you.
I have a psychology degree. I have also a master's in forensic psychology. My experience in life, I was a missionary in Venezuela, but for 2 years. In order to be a missionary, I had to learn to speak the language. So my family and I moved to San Jose, Costa Rica, where we lived for 12 months and attended language school. And we mastered the language. Wow. And what was interesting about it, we had a student visa and we had to leave every 3 months. And so we went to Panama. So I lived in North America, South America, and Central America, all three Americas. And
She's
I am
global.
excited to be here. Yes.
What a family experience.
Yes. Well, all those experiences has prepared me for such a time as this. I'm also an educator for the past 16 years. I've been an educator of high school and Spanish. And so seeing what the needs of the community is, seeing it from a family level and a personal level, I said, it's time to not just sit at the kitchen table and talk. It's time to sit at the table where the decisions are being made.
Well, it says you're committed to building a West Bank where families can thrive, communities feel safe, and opportunity is within reach for all. That starts with bold, practical solutions rooted in the needs of the people.
Absolutely. That is it.
That is it. So tell us why you're better suited for the District 1 seat.
Well, my life experiences has prepared me to be able to relate to families of all ethnicities, all economic backgrounds. I know what it is to have much, and I know what it is to have little. Mm-hmm. I know what it is to be married. I know what it is to be single. Mm-hmm. I know that I am a senior citizen. I know what it is in every department.
Young senior.
Yes, I'm a young senior.
By 3 days.
You're right.
By 3 days.
Yes, but the 20 years of marriage, 20 plus years of marriage, and my 4 beautiful children, and just life has prepared me to be able to be a problem solver and to be a good listener and a servant.
Let me just say this. I wanted to congratulate you for making it thus far. When you made the runoff, it was just encouraging to see. Like when you see folk come into a political space who work from the grassroots aspect of it, and they can make it to a runoff. That is something to be applauded. So congratulations there.
And can I add some context on that? Not only did you make it into the runoff, correct me if I'm wrong, your 2 opponents had more money than you.
That's the journalist.
Absolutely.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, you came in first, even though they had more money and had more name recognition across both of them, but one in particular, been around so long and had so much money. I live in Orleans, but I get in and out of Jefferson Parish. I saw his signs like all over the huge signs, all kinds of stuff. I mean, and you came in first?
Which is why I said congratulations there, right?
Yes.
Because more often than not, you hear people say you have to have money to even, make a name for yourself in a political arena. And so for you to do it from a grassroots perspective, you're outgunned, so to speak, in terms of funding, and you made it to the runoff, and you made it to the runoff in convincing fashion. That is something to be applauded. So congratulations there. But the race is not over.
Amen.
So we're here. The WBOK listening audience is listening. There may be some folk who have yet to vote. Tomorrow is election day. What do you say to those people who may be in a position to vote but are undecided at this point of where they're going to go in terms of the District 1 race?
I would say we need your help. I need your help. Be a part of making history. I need everyone to come together and know that this district matters. It matters to me. And I believe I'm the best person for this position because I not only want to make it better for people to exist, I said, I want it to thrive. And for people to wake up every morning and say, yes, I'm in District 1. Let's make it happen. And Miss Manuel is going to do her best to do it.
Well, Ms. Manuel, I think it says a lot that you also have the endorsement of all endorsements, right? You have a current sitting councilman, very well known,
Sitting right here.
well respected in the Jefferson Parish community, especially amongst the district that you're asking for their vote. So to have the endorsement of Councilman Byron Lee, how important was that endorsement for you to have?
That was everything to me because I'm standing on the shoulders of people, there are people who have been there, but someone who is there. And to have someone to hold my hand,
That's
be
exactly
able to
it. You need
hold
that.
my hand, to lead, to guide a trusted citizen, it means everything to me. And I don't take that lightly because it's big. Yeah. This is not a small matter. It's over almost 100,000 people whose homes and lives will be affected by the person that sits in that seat, which will be me.
All right. Councilman Lee, can you give us a little background about Black leadership in Jefferson Parish on the council? So, I mean, there's certainly other seats, state legislators and all of that, but just on the council so that our listeners will know some context about Black representation on Jefferson Council.
Well, like I like to say, although I may represent a district, literally I represent all Black people.
Right.
In Jefferson Parish.
Right.
Because oftentimes they don't know who to call when they have issues, and they're maybe not comfortable in calling maybe that council person in that district. And so often do they call my council office. And so we serve in many cases as an ombudsman for so many of us and many who don't live in District 3. And so during this is my fourth term, and the things that I saw when I first came into office back in 2004, those issues still exist in many ways. And so what's exciting about this is that I'll have someone who will be able to create an immediate and lasting impact on our community. Number one, the idea and the audacity to have the first Black female on the Jefferson Parish Council is major, because she will offer a perspective that's even different than mine. Mm-hmm. And so she'll have even an opportunity to have a broader reach than myself, because there's a difference between how men and women function and how they think very often. And so whereas I might be more business inclined, her heart will reach out beyond the way maybe my preponderant thoughts are.
Especially having been a missionary. I mean,
yes.
I mean, I'm
absolutely.
a little hung up on that.
She's bilingual.
Thank you for that. I mean, that is huge.
Right.
Mission.
Yeah.
Right.
That's big.
And so the whole objective of anyone being on the Jefferson Parish Council, because in reality is to make sure that the issues that you're confronted with, you help to make them better, or you find ways to resolve them. And so we have a lot of challenges like any other municipality has. The beautiful thing, though, as a councilman in Jefferson Parish, we have what's called a strong council, weak mayor form of government, which means that our parish president is just the administrator, but council members are the ones who vote. The parish president cannot vote. So it allows for that person in that seat to serve essentially like a mayor, and they can make final decisions, and the impact that they can make can be great. If I've made a decision that I want to support this activity by this group who's doing something good. It's just a matter of a resolution. And so what she's going to find out is that she will have the autonomy to be able to make the decisions where she'll go really, for the most part, unquestioned about. And so what's required of her as well as required of all of us on the council is that we put the time in and that we're thoughtful in our decision making. And as I always say what you mean and mean what you say.
Who were the previous black council members on the Jefferson Council?
Donald Jones was the first elected member to the Jefferson Parish Council, then myself, then Mark Spears after me, and of course I came back. So it's literally, I won't say it's been 4 of us, it's been 3 of us, right?
Yes, yeah.
But here's what I always say. As African American council members, we cannot be ceremonial. We don't have the luxury of being ceremonial. Others may.
You have to get in there and work.
We got to get in there and work.
You have to get in there and work. Which brings me to this question for your candidate, for the candidate. What is the main issue that you believe, in terms of a platform issue, that is vital, that you get in there on day one and start to try to make a difference with?
I also, the quality of life that the residents of District 1 has, in some places it is okay, but it needs to be a fair, it needs to be all the way across the board, from the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. It's Gretna, Tarrytown, parts of Marrero, parts of Harvey, Jean Lafitte, and Grand Isle. All of those people need to be seen, they need to be heard, and they need to be valued. And the thing that I'm going to do, hit the ground running, I need to go on a listening tour. I don't need to worry about everything the newspaper is saying, what different people are saying, what rumors are. I need to hear the people. I need to know what their needs are, bring it back to the table, to my team, and we make a plan. And it needs to happen by knowing what they need. That's my first thing.
So my sources tell me you've been doing that as a candidate.
Absolutely.
That you may not be on television every day or every week, and you may not be in the newspaper, and you may not be doing news media interviews as often, but you've been talking to groups of 2 and 3 and 5 and 10 and 20 and going in neighborhoods. And how much of that have you been doing?
Ooh, more than you know.
Well, I think we kind of know, because you made the runoff.
Numbers reflected.
The numbers reflected. And I don't think folk just show up at the poll and vote for a proverbial unknown if you're not interfacing with these people. You have not knocked on doors. You're not talking to people. I heard about you through a person. I didn't hear about you, through any other means. I heard about you from someone talking to me about you. Wow. And then I got your mailer in my mailbox. And it's like, oh, that's the lady that's exactly what I said. Wow. I actually picked the phone up and I said, I think the lady you were telling me about just put something in my, that was the conversation.
Wow.
But for me, I do my own homework. And so the question is to our current councilman, there were 3 people in this field. What made you decide to throw your political weight, because that's some weight, and your political prowess behind Ms. Manuel?
Well, that district is a minority-majority district, and it would have been nonsensical for me not to support her. It's about advancing, taking advantage of the opportunities to advance other people, and to also show the parish that working together works. And that's something I always say, working together does work. Yeah. So to have the opportunity to be able to work with her to help her ascend, that will benefit the public at large, is something that I wanted to do. I just think it's time for to have a woman on the Jefferson Parish Council.
I'm with you when you're right. I'm with you when you're right.
Yes. And so there are people who didn't think that she had much of a chance, and there's some people who don't think she has much of a chance right now, but we know different. And let me say this about her. I've never seen anybody who can work the room like her. I've never seen anybody who's just totally unabashed with meeting people, touching people of all ethnicities, all income classes. It doesn't matter. She has a way of, when she's meeting people, to go and introduce herself, and she makes them feel so good.
Well, that's because light is genuine.
There you go.
Light is genuine.
There
That's
you
not,
go.
You don't. You can masquerade in whatever you want, but light is genuine.
Absolutely.
And
So I want to ask you, as you have talked with people. First of all, you've grown up and lived there and all. But what are some of the specific West Bank issues you want to focus on with a win? I mean, what can people in some of those neighborhoods expect? Not changes overnight, but longer term, what would you be focused on?
Our parks and recreation, it needs to be great across the board, not in just specific areas.
Mm-hmm.
We want crime to stay down. We want families and children to find their voices and their talents. We need to give them the place to unite because, social media and cell phones, all of that's taken away from our daily lives in many ways, more ways than one. So we have got to improve our parks and recreations. We also need to use that for our seniors. Every country that I've gone to, I've seen the senior citizens like a jewel. They're valued, they're important, they're wise. But when we come here, they're pushed to the side. We need to find a way to value them. I would like to find a way. We have children as a teacher, as I was a tennis coach, I was a cheerleader coach, all of those teams and different, we can use them to go cut grass for and not have to charge our seniors to be able to just tidy up the things a little bit. Use our seniors to go to, bring their groceries or their medicines, find ways, bring their foods. Sometimes people are just sitting in the house dying. They have no companionship. I, as a council person, want to be in the lives because I believe you touch the hands, you touch the heart.
So the district, Council 1, and you know that it's majority minority, but it's traditionally a Republican district. And so you have a Republican opponent. And not just true in Jefferson Parish and Orleans. Too often, not enough of us come out and vote. So if there's a Republican history, how do you overcome that? How have you been doing in the early voting? And how do you overcome that tomorrow to get enough people out and to have that crossover appeal where, white businessmen on the West Bank want to support you?
That's an excellent question. It was made clear in the primary that they have made the crossover. Because in order for the opponent who was the most prominent, who had the most money, to get the lowest points, the lowest number, it said a lot. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was the first thing. Mm-hmm. Since he is no longer in the race, I have been reached out to more Republicans and more others than I thought was possible. I've knocked on doors up and down Huey P. Long. I was so well received, and I didn't know that this was turning into this. I go to the grocery store, the bank. Ma'am, can I take a picture with you? Ma'am, Miss Manuel, we are so glad you are doing this. So my life has changed because they're ready for a change. So all I have to do is keep doing what I'm doing because the door is open and they are very receptive.
Well, I'm going to tell you as a voter, I'm a chronic voter in District 1. This bold idea of yours with this $100 million self-insured pilot program, I'm very interested in that because, people, the homeowner, the reality of being a homeowner and rising insurance rates, that's important to me. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just about getting a home; it's being able to keep your home. So that I'm interested in hearing more about. But again, I want to personally say congratulations for making it thus far, and for all of our listening audience. Election day is tomorrow. If you are in Jefferson Parish and you happen to be in District 1, Andrea Emanuel is asking for your vote. It's an historic vote,
Absolutely.
historic opportunity in Jefferson Parish. But where can folk find you on election night? Where is your celebratory activities happening?
It will be at 1700 Lapalco at the Barrel Seafood Restaurant.
What time?
Well,
can folks start to come?
Between 7 and 9.
Between
You
7 and 9?
After, I have 6 o'clock on a flyer, but that's way too early. We're going to still be pounding the pavement
Well, let
and
me just
working
say,
hard.
in Jefferson, Orleans, and across the state, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And if you're in
So
line
there
at
are lots
7:58,
of activities
stay there.
happening
Yes.
this
It's-
weekend, including Jazz Fest.
That's right.
But you need to vote.
That's right.
So thank you once again to our prospective councilwoman out of District 1 in Jefferson Parish, Miss Andrea Emanuel, and the councilman, the one and only Byron Lee, for joining us this morning. He has wholeheartedly endorsed her, and that says a lot. Y'all have to put y'all money where y'all mouth is and get out tomorrow and vote. Polls open at what time, Will?
7 a.m.
Close at 8. Please get out and vote. Y'all stay with us. We're going to hear from our councilman, the council president of Orleans Parish, the one and only JP Morrell, on the other side of the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
All day long.
NOLA Public Schools is excited for the rest of this 24-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars attend today, achieve tomorrow.
This is Jackie Jones with Class Act Entertainment. Join us on May 11th at the Honor Thy Mother Theater Brunch in partnership with WBOK at the Jean Lafitte Auditorium. Experience the red carpet with live interviews and photo ops, along with a chance to win a trip to Las Vegas. Highlighting the afternoon is the original stage play, Mama. The finale, live concert with Piano Man G. Get your tickets at 504-491-1179.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Good Morning Show. Happy Friday, everybody. We want to once again thank our previous guest, Councilman Byron Lee, and the candidate for the council seat for District 1, Andrew Emanuel, for stopping by this morning. Election day is tomorrow. Please get out, get up, go vote. You have all day to vote. If you want to attend Jazz Fest, just go hit the button first and then go out and enjoy all of the festivities. But right now, we're getting ready to jump into conversations with our councilman, Council President J.P. Morrell. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
President.
Listen, every time I think about you, I think about the mystical song. I heard y'all was looking for me. Here I go. Because they've been looking for you. I know I've been looking for you. So I'm glad you're here. And we're going to just rip the Band-Aid off.
Right.
And we're going to ask you to tell us a synopsis really quickly before we jump into the questions. What's the deal with the trash contract?
Okay, so as you know, last year, around June, July, a contract was awarded to a team, which was Richards Disposal and Henry Consulting, to do trash pickup in the French Quarter. For a variety of reasons that we weren't aware of, a negotiation went forth. We were presented with a contract in November, which did not have Richards Disposal on it. It had Clean Force and it had been replaced. Obviously, there was a community outcry about Mr. Richards not being on the contract, and that led to a lot of additional scrutiny regarding the contract. Now, though Mr. Richards' plight led us to look at it, it wasn't the only problem we uncovered. Just at that first meeting in November, we already had two significant issues outside of Mr. Richard being forced out. The first was that the amount of the contract itself had changed from when it was awarded versus when it was brought to us for ratification. It had increased by about $500,000. That is highly unusual because there's a lot of law regarding when you have a bid and you win that bid and the cost is included as part of the reason why you won the bid, you have other people who are competing against you go, wait a second, when you adjust the number, now my bid's the cheapest. Why don't I get the points for that? The other issue was Mr. Richard, who we all know, was substituted with a company called Clean Force out of Metairie. And basically the way the city scored it was they said this Clean Force company is as good as Mr. Richard. Their DB, they meet the criteria. In that same meeting, when the owner of Clean Force, a woman from Metairie, came to the mic, we found out from her that she was subbing the entire contract to a white guy to Monroe. And we all went, whoa, you gave these people credit for 100% DB participation, and the person who's now the sub is subbing the work to another company out of Monroe that's a white guy that has no DB certification. So those were all the red flags. Now, procedurally, what happened at that point is no council member, I know the focus has been on myself and Helena, but there are 7 council members. Two are recused from bidding on this. One has a law firm that works on Mr. Henry's work. Mm-hmm. Another one has a relationship with Mr. Henry. So there's 5
mm-hmm.
left.
Mm-hmm.
Any one of those 5 council members could have brought a motion to approve the contract. No one would bring the motion. That is why the contract wasn't approved. So you fast forward, Mr. Henry filed a suit to get his contract enforced, said we didn't have the authority to stop it. We can contest that. It's a whole separate legal issue. And then sometime in between where he won his suit at the district court level. At the time he won his suit there, the judge granted us as the council a suspensive appeal to go forward to the next level in our appeal process before the Fourth Circuit. In the interim, when he won that first judgment, he settled with Mr. Richard. And then they came back to us recently and said, we made up, you need to give me the contract. Now, there was 2 issues. One, as I said previous to that November meeting, it was not the only issue. But more importantly, other issues popped up because the more time that passed, the more you can review the contract. The 2 big issues, which are fiscal fiduciary issues for the city, which are hugely problematic. The first is we uncovered that the city had agreed to prepayment of services for trash pickup. There are 5 contracts across the entire city. The French Quarter is one. In the other 4 contracts, 2 of which City Torres has, 1 of which Wasteboro has, and 1 Mr. Richard has, when you pick up trash for September, you bill us the first day of October. That is what every business does. In Mr. Henry's contract, we uncovered if he's picking up trash in September, he bills us the 1st of September.
Would that be for every month or just to start?
Every month for the entire contract is pre-purchased, which is
7-year contract?
7-year contract, every month prepaid. That is highly unusual because as you've seen, what we've heard repeatedly from the administration over and over again is that we have dire fiscal problems that could arise at any given time because of the state issues, the federal issues, just general cash flow. Cash flow, when your city's managing its budget, is very important. Also, just generally speaking, it is bad public policy to prepay for any service. You don't prepay your janitor for the work they do over a month. You pay them at the end of the month. You don't prepay necessarily your gardener. You want to see the gardening work done, you prepay them. That's issue one. The second issue, which is a huge issue, is that somehow in the process, and we're still digging through that, Mr. Henry was allowed to have half a performance bond. That is a huge glaring problem. For all these other 4 trash contracts in the RFP, including this one, it requires 100% performance bond.
So you're saying he wouldn't put up the whole 100% of the money? It will just be half?
No.
When everybody else is putting up 100%?
It's the insurance. So you get insurance with a third party, performance bond, and that performance bond protects the city. That if for some reason
they
Mr.
can't
Henry
perform or can't perform fully,
they go into default. That insurance pays someone else to do the work.
So his insurance was at 50% as opposed to the 100%.
The city, somewhere in the process, and we're still trying to figure out who did it, the city in this negotiation allowed him to put up half a bond. Every other trash contract, including Mr. Richards and Algiers, 100%. That is to protect the city and citizens, because you do not want a situation where a person has to exit for whatever reason, and we have to put up the money, though they've already been paid.
Are there any performance bonds outside of trash contracts where it's 50%?
Not that we've uncovered. During the course of that last meeting last Monday, where we had the attorney who negotiated it, he said that he implied, I can't say he said because he was very all over the place.
I saw it.
He said that we looked at the Metro contract and Metro did that. The problem is twofold. One, the Metro contract he was citing was from 10 years ago. In the charter, and there's a charter clause on how bonds can be adjusted, you need 2 things. One, you need the director of finance who manages cash flow to say we can do it. Under oath, everyone there said no one talked to Romy Samuel. So you got glaring problem. One is the only person in city government who can lower that bond
wasn't the person part of the conversation.
The second part is there's a criteria, which is she or he, in this case she, could lower the bond to make it commiserate with other contracts let the same kind in that annual period. All other 4 trash contracts have 100% bond. So it doesn't meet either criteria. So those are 2 new things that are in addition to the previous ones. Now, so that kind of gives everyone the lay of the land of where things are right now.
So I guess my question would be, is there in any scenario, is there a case where Henry Consulting can do X, Y, and Z to satisfy the council to move forward with his contract?
The problem is that's not how contracting law works. Once the contract has kind of been jumbled, and everyone at the meeting admitted it, Mr. Montano, Mr. Threat, we're at a point now where this was public bid with an RFP. Just for example, the prepay, the bond, the change of the amount, those are all contrary to the public bid that was put out.
I get that, but let me ask you this. Those 3 things, is that a Henry Consulting thing that he did, or is that a city thing that was done?
Well, that's kind of what you were trying to get at the meeting.
But the point is that at this point, it doesn't matter. The solution is you have to rebid the contract, because the problem is the city has so much legal exposure that first off, it should give everyone pause when you publicly bid a contract. This is the criteria. And part of what came out in the meeting is that we got the emails from other trash companies that had negotiated, and they had tried to get all the things Mr. Henry got, half a bond, prepay, and the city said, hell no. And they listed out, and Andrew Welty, who negotiated the previous contracts, had very explicit, good arguments on the city's behalf why you would not want half a performance bond. Because remember, let's say, for example, in Mr. Henry's case, if he gets prepayment per month, and let's say in a given month he can't perform. Let's say in September, he bills us on the 2nd of September and we pay him on the 2nd of September. And on September 5th, he goes, for some reason this month I can't perform. He's been prepaid for that month. His insurance, which would step in, would only cover half of it, which means the city would have to come up with the other. That's why performance bonds at 100% are so essential, and they're the best practice for the city.
Now, you and Dr. White know that I have an appointment, so I'm going to have to skip out early so I can make. Otherwise, it's going to take me months to reschedule. But before I leave, I want to ask this question: is it possible for IV Waste to continue the work under the existing contract through the end of the year, and for another trash contract to start at the beginning of the year, Henry Consulting or otherwise?
And I want to be very clear because I've said this to many people. When IV Waste contract ends, it ends. Like there is no possibility that the emergency contract can extend beyond the emergency period. What would happen at that point would be a rebid. It would be a rebid that anyone
so you're starting clean
over. And honestly, I believe that the criteria, and this is me personally, not speaking for my colleagues, I believe that part of the challenge we have right now, I think the original contract was too small. When you look at the cleaning services that IV Waste perform right now, they're street cleaning way more times than the original contract alluded to. And I think
it was 2 or 3 times, and they're doing almost every day.
Right. And so part of the challenge is, and this is like the challenge of segueing out of the emergency contract to the previous contract, it almost sets up the previous contract for failure regardless, because the expectation right now of people in the quarter, whether you're an employee, a business owner, a resident, you think that the level of service you're currently getting is the level of service in the contract, which it's not. So it inevitably, if there is a rebid, I think the rebid should be to the standard the IV Waste is set, which will make the contract potentially more expensive, but it will at least be the same thing that people expect. Because to be clear, the council wasn't consulted when the original contract was set out. I think many of us I represent the French Quarter when I was in the legislature, the work necessary to keep the French Quarter clean is very different than the other area because of how much commercial tourist traffic it gets. It's always been the most expensive part of the city to clean. And I think that part of the challenge is always going to be that we need to make sure that we have a standard that makes it attractive for people to come back, makes it attractive for people. I mean, no one wants to walk to work and step and vomit.
Right.
We got to make sure that the quarter is clean.
Well, so to that point, and I posed the same question to Freddie King, Councilman Freddie King, when he was here as well. If I'm working in an emergency capacity,
right,
and I'm doing above and beyond the obligation of the contract, am I not doing so to ensure that I'm in the running to get the permanent contract, right? Because if I got the job now and I'm going above and beyond, is that not incumbent upon me to do more so you can say we don't have to have a switch, right?
Well, one, you have to have a switch.
No, I'm just saying from his standpoint, not y'all.
I mean, I can't tell you what Mr. Torres' motives are. I think performing above and beyond builds public support, I guess, for a contract. But the reality is that that's not the way the bid process works. So, I mean, part of the reason why Mr. Torres didn't get the current contract is because his original bid was so much more than everyone else's. And cost is always going to be a concern.
And do you think that was why he did above and beyond? Because that would make his bid make sense, right? You get what I'm going, though?
I get what you're going, but see, like, you don't, Freddie and I are both lawyers. I'm not in Mr. Torres' head, so I can't tell you. I do think that there certainly is a motive to try and get public support and outpouring of emails to council members because he's doing a great job.
Right.
But that doesn't matter if when we go out to public bid, his contract is 10 times more than the next guy. It's still too high.
So the other question I asked Freddie was, if the contract calls for 3 days, 4 days, and you're doing 7, does the difference in those days line up in terms of a donation to the city? And is that a part of the...
I wouldn't know. The reality is that part of why emergency contracts are so short is they're inherently flexible. They're more flexible. Like when you're doing a multi-year contract, there's an intense negotiation to get the most work for the least amount of money. When you're doing emergency contracts, they tend to be very, very flexible because since that person has a much shorter contract, they don't get to recoup all the costs, for example, for depreciation of vehicles. And a lot of these contracts, the previous ones, there's a lot of protections which are more appropriate than a all the other contracts had protections in place where if you buy equipment, you want to get a protection for a year or 2 years saying, hey, if I'm going to spend $20 million buying new trucks, I want to know if you cancel the contract early, I get liquidated damages because I bought these new trucks that I can't use.
Yeah.
So, like, there's stuff built into those longer contracts. But to be clear, we don't know what Mr. Torres is billing, and we aren't paying it because that's all being administered on the administrative level. So if you want to find out if it's a gratuitous donation, is it a negotiated situation, you're going to have to ask probably Matt Torrey or someone in the administration because they didn't run that by us. Once you issue the emergency contract, the management of said contract, whether or not he's authorized to do more days, that's all going to be through the sanitation department. We don't get that information.
So JP, for the folk who just wanted to make plain sense for them, right? Because it sounds like a whole lot. What happens when Ivy Waste's emergency contract ends?
What will happen at the end of their contract,
Which is when?
Which is, I believe, December of 2025 this year, is that as that contract ends, the city is obligated to rebid the contract.
So what happens in the interim if the contract is over and we're still in the rebidding stages? What happens with sanitation?
Well, typically what happens is if the rebidding process takes too long, then they'll continue the emergency contract through the rebid. In this current contract, the one that Mr. Henry won, that's exactly what happened. There was a previous company, I can't remember the name, I want to say it's Klein Peter, or some management group owning this. They continued to pick up trash because remember, they bid that contract in, the beginning of 2024. There was an award in June, July. It didn't come in front of us until almost the end of the year. So that entire bidding process they had went far longer than it was supposed to begin with. And what happened is the previous emergency contract that was out there that the existing company did not want to perform anymore, that continued through that bidding process. Now, I would hope there's certainly an argument to be made, and I think it's a good one, that the law department and everyone else should move a lot faster to get the contract in front of us quicker, because maybe there could have been something different had it gone a little faster and gotten to us quicker. We could have negotiated a better deal with the previous emergency contract person, have them continue or something, but that's just the nature of emergency contracts. They're in place till the emergency is resolved. And right now the emergency is there is no valid contract currently in place to pick up trash, and that's why trash has to get picked up.
Lindell, please hold for me. We have to go to break, but on the other side of the break, we're going to continue to talk about this sanitation contract with City Council President J.P. Morrell right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Hi, this is Arnie Filko. Let's elevate every Tuesday through Thursday from 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. as we discuss the community, the country, and the world, from politics to current events to sports. We look forward to your input and continuing the quality programming on your community station, WBOK. Join Carrie and I every Tuesday through Thursday, 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. on Elevated Conversations, the Arnie and Carrie Show. See you soon.
This summer, let your child's creativity shine at Camp Art, New Orleans' most vibrant, arts-driven camp experience for kids ages 4 to 12. Hosted by Beyond the Stage, Camp Art blends visual art, theater, music, dance, and creative writing with New Orleans history and culture. Plus, field trips, guest artists, and camper showcases. With full-day programming before and after care and sessions starting June 9th, it's the perfect fit for working parents. Fun, enriching, unforgettable. Register now at beyondthestagellc.com/campart and follow us on social media at Beyond the Stage LLC.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 AM on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
And we are back Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta White. If you're just joining us, we're in conversation with Council President J.P. Morrell. If you want to join the conversation, it's 504-582-9422. Good morning, Lindell. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Council President J.P. Morrell.
Good morning. Good morning to Dr. White. Good morning, Councilman.
Good morning.
Councilman, I have to give you your props, man. This stuff became so interesting, all the talk, everything. So I just happened to sit and listen to your interview with Newell Norman. I listened to Mr. Henry's interview with Newell Norman. And after listening to those interviews, of course, you do your own due diligence, and you say, well, let me find out what this is about and if it's even worth the hoopla that's going on. What really struck me is that I'm surprised, with all due respect to Mr. Henry, that he's even a contender. Everything that it seems this guy is, why is it that we never have the money? Why are we even giving contracts or even entertaining someone? I mean, this guy is fighting for something, and I understand, well, we're going to sub it to someone else to do such and such. But you can go directly to the person and sub it and get the contract and probably spend less money. But when I look at how the history of the failed businesses, and he did say that, he told Norman, he said, Norman, he said, listen, I'm an expert. You're not an expert, And I said, well, okay, let's check out expert. Worked over we went at Bayou Phoenix, we get Bayou Phoenix, right? When are they going to do something with Bayou Phoenix? You don't do anything with Bayou Phoenix. You worked at United Water in Atlanta. See, this is the part that really got me. This guy had a deal with Atlanta. He messed over those people so much, in his words, when he worked for United Water, it's quoted, he and his company are willing to spend multiple millions of dollars to regain the trust of the mayor at that time, Shirley Franklin, and of the citizens who were affected by the bum deal that United Water had. We can go on and look at the broken promises of small sliders, the same thing that Drew Brees when Drew Brees was competing for Bayou Phoenix and lost the deal, since then, that man has opened up a few businesses that have actually gone into operation. And he lost out. We have, and that's successful in all this. I'm thinking to myself, this list goes on. My time is short. But I have an entire list. I'm thinking to myself, well, did they do their due diligence in finding out what relationships he's had in other cities? That he has left those places to come in. He wanted to privatize sewage and water board. Worked on advertising that. And I'm thinking to myself, when you don't have the experience for something, why would I hire you? I don't care about how much of a business person you are. I don't care how much of an expert you claim, or yourself expert you claim to be. When you have a history and a list of failed businesses, then that doesn't speak of success to me or being an expert. The only thing that would say to me is that you're an expert at failing. When you look at
speaking about, Lindell, because you were kind of breaking up.
I'm sorry. When I was talking about the contractor that's out here saying that, hey, I don't think. Here's my thing. I don't think anyone without the equipment, without the experience in doing this job, and it doesn't have to be Torres. It can be. Look at Mr. Richards. Councilman Morrell said this probably could have gotten through because it was during Super Bowl and they were trying to prepare for things. Except the fact that they tried to screw Mr. Richards, and that's when they did more scrutiny, right? And you start saying, well, okay, let's take a look at this. So Richards thought he was being, fool-bucked or whatever because Henry was going to get more money and he wasn't going to get a part of it. So that started that little process of a fallout, right? Well, then when we look at Bayou Phoenix and a guy comes through with a scrap metal, that turned into a fiasco of, I want more money. Say, man, we don't need no more people coming through with a power grab and the expertise. So this is costing the city and the taxpayers of New Orleans a lot of money. Not only the $73 million contract, but all of the litigation that is costing the taxpayers just to get this stuff right. And sadly, because our dear friend only has half of the money to put up in a form of half of whatever resource to put up for a bond, and guess what? We're still going to be on the hook for even those funds. So I think that if you all really, my opinion, Councilman, I think when you all rebid it, but you don't score 100 points if you don't have some insider information, right? At least that was my opinion on it. I think that this contract situation is I think it's flawed, as everybody knows. And I think that you always need to get that to someone who actually has the experience. Call Mr. Richardson and see if you can work out a deal with him and let him be the person. He has the trucks. He has the experience. He has the expertise. This man's been doing this for 40 years. Not on trial and error, but this is what he's done. And I think you get the best bang for your buck. If everybody's complaining about not getting anything for the money that you're spending, it's about time you start sensibly looking at this stuff and really getting the best bang for your buck. All right, have a nice day.
Appreciate you. So to his point, is there a way, Councilman, that we could rebid it now so that when the emergency contract ends, there's no gap in service?
So the challenge is, and part of the reason why the emergency exists is because we're in litigation. As I said, Mr. Henry did win at the trial court level with Judge Irons, but we're in front of the Fourth Circuit and Supreme Court. So really, the emergency is that we're in litigation and there is no contract. Part of the reason why you saw the council kind of respond, and you saw Senator Harris respond, the public respond very viscerally to the premature termination of IV waste, is that the court case could determine whether Mr. Henry gets the contract at all right now. I mean, if he wins at the Fourth Circuit and Supreme Court, he would have the case to give me my contract because this is the contract that I'd negotiated. So the emergency right now, the lack of a feasible contract, is because we're in litigation and that needs to be resolved. So the reason why we can't put it out to bid right now is if hypothetically, and I don't think this is the case, if Mr. Henry said, I'm canceling my contract, I'm removing my lawsuit, then yeah, we can rebid it right now. We can rebid it.
So you can't rebid it now because the litigation is still going on. So should Mr. Henry win at this next stage, then the council is the next two stages. I'm sorry. Is the council obligated at that point to stop the fight to not award him the contract?
So it gets interesting. I know I'm not trying to confuse everyone with legal issues. So right now, what Mr. Henry sought was a mandamus to make us vote on his contract. Because I told you, no council member would offer the motion to vote on the contract. So he wants a motion, and what Judge Irons granted, which is kind of weird, she granted his motion to make us vote on the contract. She further said, we have to vote in favor of the contract and then sign the contract. Hold your eyes open. No judge can make a legislative branch of government vote a certain way.
I was confusion real quick. And I said confusion
It was
real
confusing
quick.
on our part too.
Not confusing, I was confusion real quick.
We've had judges before say, you can't not vote. Like, you have to go vote. So they'll have a mandamus saying, council must vote. They don't tell us how to vote.
Yeah.
But in this judgment, she literally says the council must vote, and they must vote in favor of the contract, and the council president must sign it.
Is this what you're appealing?
That's what we're appealing.
That's what you're
appealing.
appealing.
And so if we win our appeal, then it's back to the council has in a posture where it can't be passed. The underlying issue is that I don't know how the council would vote if we were forced to vote. But I do think the fact that no council person will offer the motion is a pretty good indicator of where it is.
So this is like your fourth time saying
right.
that, so I'm interested, right? You said it's 5 people. Who were the two that had to abstain?
The two that had to abstain, Mr. Geruso had to abstain because the law firm he went to work with at the end of last year, Phelps Dunbar, does work for Mr. Henry, which is appropriate abstention. Mr. Thomas works for Mr. Henry with the WBOK, so he had to abstain. Both of them, it was the completely appropriate ethical thing to do. They didn't have a choice.
Okay.
That leaves the 5 remaining council members: myself, Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Green, Councilmember King. And due to all the various issues, nobody, even though authoring a motion is simply putting it before the council to vote, there's a bit of ownership of the issue when you author the motion. And there's yet to be someone to emerge forward and say, I want to own this issue and put it before a vote. So, I mean, it's so far from being approved that if he wins his lawsuit, it puts him back where he was. Now, the other issue he challenged in the lawsuit was the council's authority to have oversight over sanitation contracts. Now, I want to kind of give a little history of that. At the beginning of our term was when the mayor was kicking out Metro and trying to kick out Mr. Richard and their contracts. And there was an effort right after Ida to push Mr. Woods and his company out of Gentilly and out of New Orleans East. That was so messy, and Mr. King and I were so bothered by how Mr. Woods was treated as an underpaid black millionaire in the city of New Orleans. We changed the law then to say, listen, you can't arbitrarily do these sanitation contracts when there's all these issues. We found out Mr. Richards' money was being cut. He was being extorted to get out quicker. Like, it was just a mess. So we passed an ordinance in 2022 saying, no. These sanitation contracts are too expensive. They're too lucrative for us not to have a say in them. When they rebid Uptown and Mr. Richard lost to Mr. Torres, went through the same process. When Mr. Richard won Algiers and people were fighting over it, went through the same process, and everybody got their contracts. So for 2 years, The mayor, the council went through the process and it was fine. Mr. Henry was the first person to challenge the process, and now he's saying the process of us being involved is illegal. And I would argue, especially in what we found in this contract, it is absolutely essential because this contract, this $75 million 7-year contract, it comes out the city's general fund. It's the same interest we have to compete with paying schools and the like. If the council's responsible for the money, we should be involved in every decision dealing with money. Now, if you're dealing with policy, it's outside of money and zoning. The council has limited under the charter. But when it comes to money, we should be in the middle of everything because if we come up short, we got to do the cuts to make the budget work.
Well, my question here would be, what do you say to folk who say, or Mr. Henry himself who says, I was awarded this contract, whatever issues you're having with the city itself and the council, that's between y'all, but I was awarded this contract and you can't keep me from moving forward with this contract. What do you say to the folk who believe that side of things?
Well, there's 3 problems. One, you were awarded a contract for $7 million to have Mr. Richard in it. That's the contract you won in the RFP. The contract that they put in front of us is not the same contract you were awarded. So that's the first issue. That's the first problem. So you were awarded something and had that contract with Mr. Richards as your partner at $7 million come in front of us. That would have been a contract you could have been awarded. The contract in front of us has Mr. Richard now with a confidential settlement. We don't know how much Mr. Richard is being paid, which in itself is a problem. The fact you have a confidential settlement with Mr. Richard, number one. Number two, the contract you were awarded in RFP had 100% bond. The contract in front of us has got a half a bond. The contract you awarded at RFP had you getting paid at the end of the month like every other contractor. Now you're getting prepaid. So one, the contract you're awarded. 2, the contract in front of us is different. The other issue is the process says, the current law says, that the council is required to sign the document to execute the contract. You cannot continue, and I mean he's going to continue to do it, to ignore the fact that the contract has a spot for him, a spot for the mayor, and a spot for a council. If you don't have all 3 signatures,
then it's not valid.
It's not valid. And I mean, you could keep saying, I got a valid contract. That other block ain't full. You don't have a valid contract.
So in 30 seconds, can you address the senator's bill for the French Quarter Management Board to choose the trash contract?
So what that bill does is it says that if the city can't get their act together to have a trash contract, and there is no contract, that FQMD can do an emergency contract until there's a contract. The problem we have right now is a new artificial crisis where the mayor has prematurely ended trash pickup on August 1st. And I mean, it was kind of a gangster move to say, if you don't do what I want with this contract, the French Quarter is going to drown in trash. What Mr. Harris did, who represents the quarter, is say, no, you cannot drag the French Quarter into this mess where if the 2 of y'all can't agree, they just got to live in trash. If the 2 of y'all can't agree and the city cannot get its act together, that management district can do an emergency contract because the mayor's prematurely ending IV waste. They can let their own contract to pick up trash until the city has a contract. So we don't lose any authority to have trash pickup in the quarter, but at the same time, residents shouldn't suffer because we can't get a contract done.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to extend another invite to Mr. Henry himself to come and address a lot of these things. But I need a promise from you that you're going to come back every step of the way when the court case happens. Because we need to be updated, and we need somebody who understands the wholeness of it to get us clear.
I am happy to come back when invited.
This is a microphone and everybody can hear it.
Here's what I said. When Dr. Wyatt invites me to come talk about things, I will come here. Provided you don't call me on like my kid's birthday or nothing like that. I won't
do that. I'll respect your schedule, but we need clarification because in full transparency, everybody knows that Mr. Henry is one of the owners here at WBOK. But one of the pillars of WBOK is about truth. And it's about amplifying Black voices and making certain that we have a seat at the table when conversations are happening. This is our table, and we need clarity, and we need information, and we need to be able to make a sound decision of what we're supporting. But we can't do that if the issue is muddy.
Nope.
So we need you here to unmuddy the waters. We need Mr. Henry here to get his perspective. I would even love to talk to Mr. Richard, because there's a consensus of people who feel like Mr. Richard is the only loser in the whole situation. There are people that think that, not saying that that's the point.
And to your point, I think it was a point that was made by Lindell. There's a universe in which you just bid out the trash pickup and the street sweeping and the street cleaning separately, where you don't need Mr. Richard to partner with Mr. Henry.
Well,
so it's like
that's all the conversation. We need to have it.
I mean, honestly, part of what, and I believe it might have been Mr. King or myself, when the contract came in front of us in November, we're looking at all the different issues. It was like, why did we force a team that need to be a team? We could have had Mr. Richard picking up trash on his own. He's been doing that for 40 years and had all this additional work, the spraying of the lemon scent or whatever we want to call it, the street cleaning, the picking up the trash, the separate picking up of trash from receptacles that is not Mr. Richard. We could have bid that separately. That's a choice the administration made, but if there's a new administration, they might go a different way. But
well, let's hope for the sake of all parties involved, especially the people who are most impacted by this situation, which is the constituency, that we could figure out how to come together and make the best decision for not only the city, but for the council, but for all of the parties involved, and especially the residents who depend on service no matter what is going on. But y'all stay tuned. Up next for the Front Porch with Graylin and Kimber. I want to thank Council President J.P. Morrell for taking part of his morning to clear some things up for us. But we going to see y'all next week. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.